Good evening, Whovians. Welcome to episode 6 of Who Doesn't Have a Podcast. We are joined this evening by Michael Hobgoblin Priestley. Say hello, Mike.
Why did you start with me when I was drinking? Hello.
Because you're drinking a Christmas reference, and we've got to include it. It's the Doctor Who podcast.
The Doctor Who podcast.
The Doctor Who podcast.
All the other ones
Who
are
podcast.
frauds.
Including the official one.
I spit on it.
I make no comment from now on.
And speaking of which, congressed with Paul McGann's hair is Jerome Dowling. Say hello, Jerome.
You know what? That's one of the biggest compliments. I will take it. Fun fact. He actually wore a wig for the movie. Don't know if you guys knew that.
Did he?
Absolutely did. Anyway, evening, everyone.
Whose hair is longer, mine or yours?
Oh, Jerome's by...
Is it?
Oh, look at it.
Mine's straight.
Right. Pull your sides down, both of you. Pull them down. Let's get a definitive
Let me
answer.
look directly at the camera.
This is for... Well, should we put a poll in the Patreon? We don't have a Patreon.
Yeah. I'm going to have to make this a chapter during the edit.
Yeah.
Here's a quick Whovian question.
I'm still doing it. Jerome just gave up.
Short hair doctors or long hair doctors? Preference.
Capaldi, because he's both. Peter Capaldi played the 12th Doctor. He came after Matt Smith and he came before Jodie Whittaker.
So what we gathered for?
I'm taking your word for that. So
can I hijack it before we go? Can I introduce our very first pod segment?
Yes.
So our very first pod segment is going to be called Catching Dan Up. So it's going to be a weekly quiz. It's going to be a weekly quiz where Jerome and I have made up 3 things that happened in Doctor Who and sneaked in a 4th thing that actually happened in Doctor Who since Dan stopped watching when David Tennant left.
I've carried on watching with Matt Smith.
Ooh, have we fucked it? We haven't. This one's
the minute
fine.
he ended up in his own eye and he was shot by a spaceman, I thought, no, that was the cut off.
So you got to that second series, all right?
I hung tight.
Okay. Well, this one should be fine at least. So
I believe in you, Dan. You've got this.
Thank you.
Through these little quizzes, we are going to catch you up with what's happened on Doctor Who. Now, remember, 3 of the things are stuff that Jerome and I have made up. And
what? 3 of them are fake?
Yeah, 3 of them are fake. One of them is true.
Okay.
But the fun of the quiz should be that you should be able to work out which one it is. Okay. The point system is going to be you versus us. So if we manage to fool you, we get a point. If you manage to correct the right one, you get a point. You could say that the odds are favorably in our favour.
Well, it's 75-25. I think this is very unfair.
Not my problem. Your problem.
Mike, just to add to this, maybe not for this one because this is a last-minute addition. But should we give him the option in future rounds to have 50-50, phone a friend, and potentially ask the audience? But he can only choose one per podcast. So, like, before we ask him the question, without him knowing which of the 4 options he's going to get, he can choose to have like a token assist. So, like, before he starts, he can have like a 50-50, or he can have like a phone a friend.
We don't have anybody who watches the podcast, though. Do you have any other Doctor
which is going to make it even better. But yes.
Do you have any friends that watch Doctor Who?
Do you have any friends?
Well, I did, but then 2 of them have become total wankers.
His only friends is me and you, and he'd have to call one of us up, and we just give him the wrong answer.
You just hanged up and tell me to go fuck myself.
Anyway, sorry.
Right, just get on with it.
No, we've had a laugh, but let's get down to business.
Yeah.
Right. So, which one of these things didn't happen? Right. Laura Oswald is revealed to be an unscrupulous biological experiment by the Rani via Gallifreyan blood transfusion. Across the stars, she is known She is known as across the stars. She is known as Ushas, a well-known affiliation to the Rani and her human experiments. There's a theory linking this to the Timeless Child arc.
Okay.
Number 2. Clara and her sidekick, who is called Me, inherit a TARDIS that is shaped like an American diner, and the final shot of the season is an American diner flying off into deep space. Right, the third option. Peter Capaldi full-on says the word twat in one episode. And then the final option. The TARDIS is revealed to have indigestion. The TARDIS is revealed to have indigestion in that fucking dreadful forest episode and burps multiple times in the episode. All right, which one of those is true?
Okay.
Would you like to hear them again? Sure.
Right, I'll say them again.
Or do you want to spare that, Mike?
Let's revisit this in all its glory. Go for it again.
I'll shorten them down. I won't laugh. Right. Clara Oswald is revealed to be a biological experiment by the Rani. Across the stars, she is known as Ushers. a well-known affiliation to the Rani, and it links to the Timeless Child arc. The second one I said was that Clara Oswald and her sidekick, who is called Me, as in M-E, flies off in a TARDIS that is shaped like an American diner. The third one is Peter Capaldi says the word twat in one episode. And the fourth one is the TARDIS has indigestion and repeatedly burps in an episode.
So Dan, talk us through your thought process here.
Well, as funny as it is,
Dan, we need to drag this out because it's going to be more interesting than us talking about the movie. So
I made notes. I thought it was all right. Well, apart from, I will get into that. Back, not getting distracted. So, okay, so the first one, judging by your laughter.
So hold on. What are you doing? Are you going to just tell us which one you think is
right? So I feel like if Peter Capaldi said the word twat in episode Doctor Who, it will be common knowledge by now because that is undoubtedly hilarious. I don't think it's the one where it shapes as an American diner.
Yeah. What did I say?
Yeah. No, it couldn't
shaped
be.
as an American diner that flies off into space with a character called Me. As in me.
You.
Me.
I was in it. Jerome was in it.
That's why I didn't watch it. And I'm going to say...
No, you wouldn't.
I really wouldn't. And I'm going to go with the indigestion one. But that's only because Paul McGann jokes about it in that film. And I feel like that is something that they'd either reference again or... Look at me spitting out Doctor Who references here.
This is good. This is
Hello.
Good. This is good.
I'm gonna go with the indigestion.
What's
option.
the reference? I missed that in the film. Does he?
At the end of the film where they get the TARDIS going again after the Master's fallen into the eye of
Orion.
The eye of
Orion.
Whatever it is.
It is the Eye of Orion.
Yeah, it's not. It's
I thought it was, wasn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's the Eye of...
I'm pretty sure it's the Eye of
something
Orion.
else.
Oh no, it's the Eye of...
The Eye of Omega?
Oh, maybe.
Eye of Harmony.
Harmony.
Oh, that was my third guy. That was my third
Eye of
one.
Harmony.
Yeah, that's the third one.
Sorry. Wait. Did I just correct you to a Doctor Who fact?
Right, let's stop recording.
Did that just happen? Did I just correct you too?
I'm going to go ahead and say the movie isn't canon. So But we'll leave it for the actual discussion.
Is that a bonus
He
point?
mentions the Eye of Orion at another point. That's why.
It's a bonus point. I get a point anyway. With regards to the answer, get a point.
Leave it up to the fans. And if they don't get back to us because they don't have any, then no.
Please like and subscribe. Otherwise, we're going nowhere with this. Secondly,
So you're saying indigestion.
I'm going to go with
that-
indigestion because it
is
seems
that your-
like the most logical one of the lot because there
Is
was a
that-
reference to it that I've just watched in the film. So I'm going to go with indigestion as my final answer, Jeremy.
Jerome, I am going to rule them out
Okay.
in an order that I see fit.
Would you like me
So-
to play some elevator music?
Please.
Amazingly, I had it ready for this very moment because I anticipated.
Of course you did.
We might.
Of course you
need-
did.
Sorry, it's just a B&Q advert for the listeners.
Doesn't pay for YouTube. Is it playing?
It
Is that
is.
still the advert?
This is definitely not the
Right.
elevator music I wanted, but you're going to have it now.
It is.
I mean, it's not even on music at this point.
Do you think by this point we've ruined the tension as well?
It
Right.
might have gone a bit awry.
Possibly.
Right. It
Well,
is
we'll just
not-
accept that is the wrong elevator music. Go on, Mike. You go.
It is, yeah. If this was a game about who can pick the best elevator music, Jerome would have lost. Right. It is not. Laura Oswald is revealed to be an unscrupulous biological experiment.
Yes.
Ushers.
It is not. Peter Capaldi says the word twat in one episode.
I wish it was.
So it's a face-off. It's either the TARDIS is revealed to have indigestion and burps throughout the episode, or Clara flies off in a dark diner space TARDIS with a character called Me.
If it is, then I'm glad I skipped these episodes. It's not, is it?
The answer is Clara flies off in a diner
Fuck
into space.
off.
It is the worst ending to a series I've ever seen. And when Jerome and I were having fun coming up with these answers before, Jerome said that he'd forgotten about that and he hates Doctor Who again. Yeah, we made the other ones up. That is genuinely what happened, and that's the fun of this quiz. Doctor Who is so ridiculous that and it makes such ridiculous swings.
The TARDIS
Yeah.
burping, Dan. Honestly, come on.
But
You'd ever believe
you could
that?
You could see it happen. I find it more believable. And didn't I say, Jerome, in our chat? I said I bet Dan picks the burping one.
You did. He did. Can confirm. So Dan, I think he's watching it for the listeners.
I can't believe that was a genuine. Who made that? Who was writing at the time?
The Moth.
Stephen Moffat, but don't come after
Moth.
the Moth. And I will say this, Dan. I will say this: the TARDIS can take any shape. That's the whole point of the chameleon circuit.
It has taken
But
a grand.
why an American diner?
We'd have to watch it. We will watch the episode eventually. It does make sense. It's just the final shot of the CGI diner flying off through space is so ridiculous that you understand why they picked a police box, which is also completely ridiculous. So yeah,
Okay.
it's a real choice. I remember watching it at the time and thinking, "What has happened to Doctor Who?" But then, but the most offending thing is that there's a character called Me, M-E, and it's never really explained. I don't think. I'd have to watch it again.
They do have another name, but it kind of
What's their other name?
a Shilder, isn't it?
There,
Shilder.
isn't it? A Shilder, yeah, a Shilder, yeah, a Shilder. Yeah.
A Shilder, and it's played by the star from Game of Thrones, whose name I have completely forgotten, but she plays young Ira.
Arya Stark. What's her name?
What's her name? This is good. We can edit this.
Who plays Arya? Hey Google, who plays Arya Stark in Game of Thrones?
Arya Stark was played by Maisie Williams.
Maisie Williams.
Maisie Williams.
Thank you, Google.
There we go. Google.
Well, that was fun. So 1-0 to Jerome and I.
Oh, surely I get like half a point for getting like the reference to the Eye of whatever it was. I've forgotten.
Why
don't
would I
care.
give you half a point for getting the answer wrong in the quiz?
Because I'm committed. I'm like a committed ex-lover. I'm back, and I want to.
Why would I
You're not
give
a
you
fighter.
half a point? No. It is 1-0 though, so we've just all got to live with that, I think. But hey, there's always next week. It's unfair as well. It's doubly unfair because there's more chance of us winning. Plus, the quiz never gets flipped around. So, but
One week.
what am I supposed to do about that? I don't care about the
We'll
rules.
find a way to do it for all of us as well. Maybe for Mike, we'll like test him on everything that happened in the 1960s and 70s, and then you guys can come up with something for me as well.
Yeah, we're never going to get you. We'd have to not do Doctor Who questions, so that defeats the purpose of the podcast.
I don't know. You could do Torchwood. My knowledge on Torchwood is a lot less.
Oh yeah, we
I
do
could
Torchwood.
Do Torchwood.
But anyway,
good on that.
should we move on to the movie?
Are you going to title this one, Mike?
Am I going to what?
Well, you titled the first bit. You're going to title this one.
Title? Oh yeah. You want me? Yeah, I'll title this bit. Yeah. Cool.
Christ, how strong's that beer?
I'm still confused what you're talking about, even though I've pretended I know.
You did the title for the quiz, and then you're going to do like a title or an intro for this
You're
bit.
supposed to be leading this one.
Okay.
But I'll take
So let's
it.
talk about.
So this is... No, you go.
So let's talk about the movie, the Doctor Who 1996 TV movie.
Ooh.
From 1996. First thoughts.
Right, my overwhelming thought is, why did we choose this to be the first episode that we watched outside of the 60th anniversary specials?
I think it's a great idea because we can't. This is like.
For fuck's sake, Jerome, sort your sound out. You keep cutting out. I know you won't get that.
I
joke,
feel
but you
like-
keep cutting out.
I feel like without this TV movie, you don't get the revival, and I can explain that in more detail. But Mike, did you want to follow up on your initial thoughts?
No, but to be honest, that's one of the things that I wrote down as well. I wanted us to have a little bit where we theorized what Doctor Who would be like if this got picked up. I think it was supposed to be a pilot for an American Doctor Who TV series. So we wouldn't have our Doctor Who without this film. The film itself we can go into, but Dan, what did you think, first of all?
I thought it was. I feel like some bits were incredibly cringe and some bits were very good. And I think that's just 1990s TV movies in a nutshell. Some bits are unbelievably like crumble like a crisp packet cringe, and other bits are really stand out. I think the first bit that I'm going to mention
Should we start with the good?
Let's start with the good, because the first thing I've got written down is the opening credits, and they have a very, very they align almost immediately. What am I trying to say? They are very identical to the 2005 series titles as well. So I don't know whether that was like an inspiration thing for the reboots, kind of be inspired by that, but they were very identical and similar in the way that the title was come up on the screen. I saw some similarities there. So that's one of the good things.
Moving on to the bad.
Moving on to let's just deal with it. The master in his previous guise, he looked like a seaman snake. Like, let's just address that. Like, who would green light a seaman snake like that?
He does look like a snake made out of semen. Yeah, I also I had that on my notes. Not semen snake, but I did have master snake. I think it's very like master snake, master bait. But
They're all pop jokes. Yeah. We're going to miss you next week, Jerome.
I agree. I think the snake thing, you know what, it like, obviously there's that as its entirety, but it's just the whole, like, I don't know whether it was Eric Roberts just they were like, do what you want, or whether he'd been directed in a certain way, but like the whole kind of like the weird kind of serpentine eyes thing going on, the sort of like where in some points, I think it's in towards the fight, one of the final scenes where they're all in the TARDIS and he starts speaking with this like weird kind of kind of growl. I don't know how you describe it, but it's when it's like he starts just going like,
Just like that.
Bad time for his video and audio to freeze. Bad time.
If you can't see this, you can't see this, listeners, but he's now writhing on the floor like a snake with his clothes off. It's quite unnerving.
A semen snake.
It's a literal like it's everywhere. Semen, semen everywhere.
So his internet ad's frozen, so I'll just take over. No, but so there's a lot of things in this which I do like. What I did like was it's kind of like it strikes a balance between being recognizably Doctor Who and this kind of backdoor American pilot for the series to continue on. I thought, like, because obviously they would have put some money into it. Like, I mean, I'm not sure how the production came along, but it's not like they just ignored Doctor Who as a thing. It does still feel weird and Doctor Who like. So I did admire that, and I thought like Paul McGann's casting was really good.
Yeah,
it's just I don't know, like, yeah, that's like a positive thing I'd say about it. I also thought it looked quite good. I don't know about you, Jerome.
It has.
Jerome's back. Sorry, Jerome, you froze. Your internet cut out, I think.
Yeah, I honestly, I just got so upset talking about the Doctor Who TV movie. I just needed to take a break there.
I'm just glad you put your clothes back on.
It is good.
Sorry, guys. I feel warmer now. It is January after all.
We could definitely tell.
Where did you get to? And I'll.
I chatted some shit for a minute, but you carry on with what you want to do.
No, it's basically that. I just think the whole it was a poor casting decision. But to be fair, have you heard? So I did some digging into kind of like the production of this movie, and it is. I don't know if we have time to like go into that depth now, but it is fascinating the amount of things that went wrong. Like they originally started the like you were saying, Mike, about it being like a pilot for future episodes in the series. Like they began working on this idea in 1989. It took them 7 years just to get to the movie. So like when Doctor Who originally finished, when it had its break, because they were like, this is just, we have to stop this. Started planning on like on an American movie in like 1989. And then like loads of different producers were attached to it. Spielberg was attached to it at one point. It went through loads of different, it was like backed by Universal. But then on the casting front, there's some really interesting things because Peter Capaldi was initially looked at as the 8th Doctor. And then they kind of went and decided they fancied Paul McGann. Also, it was for a while, the favorite was, Liam Cunningham, who's also in Game of Thrones. I'm pretty sure he plays Sir Davros.
Yeah.
Or Sir Davros, I should say. But I think he was like in a big shout for the role. But like all of the there were loads of people in the mix for the Master as well, and some of the names that are attached kind of give you the flavor of this is why it was so bonkers, because like apparently because Paul McGann wasn't a big enough star, they wanted like a big name, they wanted like a Hollywood name to play the Master for like commercial reasons. So before settling on Eric Roberts, David Bowie was linked to the role. Mick Jagger was linked to the role. My favorite personally is Sting. They offered the role to Sting. But they, and I think also there were a couple of like other like sort of Hollywood actors, but you kind of get the impression of this was always going to be like batshit.
It's weird because what I was just saying when you cut out, what it's landed on is kind of like an unremarkable Doctor Who movie, right? But one that wasn't so Americanized that it completely butchered Doctor Who, because it didn't. It was weirdly, because, I thought, I viewed it years ago, and my impression of it before revisiting it was, like American hands got all over this, and it was all like weird and not very British anymore. But it is actually Doctor Who-ish and like British and like BBC-ish. And even by the choice of having Sylvester McCoy there at the very start is like, this is a continuation of the story as opposed to it being like a complete rewrite. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like there are a lot of good, like you said, there are a lot of good things I think that came from it that maybe we didn't appreciate at the time, that weren't executed well. But like, there's a lot of concepts like the Jules Verne style TARDIS. Like, I really enjoy the TARDIS in the opening scenes with Sylvester McCoy. I genuinely think like the detail they went into it, the kind of some of the new kind of additions in terms of console, like Matrix arc things going on, and obviously like with the Eye of Harmony, thank you Dan, the kind of extension of that whole like different rooms and different kind of functions to the purpose of the TARDIS. Like, I think that's a cool thing, and I think that's something they have like rolled with into the new kind of revival series. And also like the dynamic between the companion and the Doctor. Like, Grace is I mean, she's not one of my favorite companions by any means, but she, like, that newfound, it's a very modern companion, and I think it did really set the path for what was to come with like Rose and Martha and Donna, and like I think all of these future companions, I think it really kind of set that precedent. So there are like things there that you can definitely say I think they improved on. They saw that there was something that they could work with, and they improved on it later on, I think.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with that. And I think even with because another reference I've got here that I again wouldn't realize until watching it was the initial name that the guy put down for the Doctor being John Smith.
Yeah.
Very I didn't realize that John
nice
Smith
touch,
was such a long-standing association with the Doctor, which I thought was pretty cool.
It is, and it's those little bits that made me think, okay, well, this is definitely a continuation of the story. They've not like thrown the baby out with the bathwater here. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to do.
Yeah.
So what didn't we like? I've got loads.
I mean, I was going to say,
start?
well, the only thing I was going to say was there was a cameo with the guy that was working in the morgue, and I can't remember the actor's name, but he's a comedian, and he was best known on Vine for doing that lemons thing. We were like, lemons, and then like it just spits out a lemon. I can't remember the actor's name. He was like, he's massive on Vine in like the 2000s. But he's in this. He plays the guy who's like the morgue doctor.
The kind of comedic, like more,
Will Sasso. Okay. That's it. Will Sasso.
Will Sasso.
He's in this.
Sasso, I thought. Shout out for Will Sasso.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so that was a kind of surprise. In terms of things, I wasn't too sure about. Why was there a cathedral inside the TARDIS, and why are there leaves on the floor? How much bigger is the TARDIS than we knew?
Okay, this is you've actually struck a sore point with me. So I've always had a problem with the idea that the TARDIS is much bigger on the inside than how it is. I love the idea that it's bigger than the inside. It's got the console room, it's got like bedrooms or whatever. When you start going morgues, churches, there's no morgues, but churches. There's an episode of Matt Smith's called Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. It's like I'm always like, I see it as very gimmicky, and I really don't like it. But that's just me. Too sci-fi for me. Too sci-fi. Love it.
So that was one thing that I kind of was a bit bizarre. The other bit was again, I'm just going to throw it out there as a reference. There's a reference. The Doctor says that he's half human.
Universally hated. Universally hated.
Now, was this? We've touched on this in the podcast before, haven't we not?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to reach out to you. I'm guessing it's the first time that spanner was thrown into the works and it caused a whole load of shit to fly.
So I think this has been famous because it is like, it's one of those things where it's been so kind of like retconned because it just like, it kind of, destroys it. If you're going for a continuity aspect, like it just kind of rids so much of the understanding of the character. It's not like that's been done at all in the last 12 months. But
I want to talk about that, Jerome, because I do want to.
But stick in on the human thing. Like Russell T Davies, like famously came out and said that that's the one thing I think himself, Stephen Moffat, Chris Chibnall, like a lot of the writers on Doctor Who have just all universally agreed that they will never ever make that a thing. They were like, everything else is fair game. We will try, and like any other kind of theories and, you know, ways to move the story forward, we will try and incorporate. But they've just all universally agreed that just, no, it didn't happen. He said it was a joke when he said it, like he didn't mean it, sort of thing. They've all just gone, no.
I mean, watching that scene back, and I did have to rewind it just to make sure I heard it properly, it does come across a bit jokey until he goes into a bit more detail. But I can fully appreciate why that would have peed off a lot of the fan base, because it just completely tears up his story.
I totally get that. I don't really like. I think it was meant seriously. It is delivered jokingly. I guess he is post regeneration, so he's a bit like all over the place. I think it's probably a creative decision from some sort of suit that said we need to make the Doctor Who more relatable, like blah blah, let's make him human, like, you know. But to be honest, you've got the human component. What has happened to Jerome? He looks like a Doctor Who monster. Can you see that? The audience are never going to see it because it comes up one at a time. But can you not see his face?
No, he's gone completely blank on my screen.
Oh my god! I wish I could take a picture without 1 sec. I will take a picture of the pod. It's great.
Oh no, you.
Oh, fuck's sake!
Fuck's sake, Jerome.
You froze like you froze.
I bet that
and
was
you
the
looked like
best
one of the
90
monsters
seconds
from
of the
Sleep
podcast.
No More. Right. Anyway, you look like a monster out of Sleep No More. That terrible Capaldi episode. So I'll put links up. But anyway, I was mid-flow. What was I saying? Yeah, I think it was probably that kind of like, let's make it more relatable. But the Doctor's companions are supposed to be the relatable side of it. So I think that's all weird and stupid. I don't care about it so much. I'm like, whatever, like probably didn't happen. But I don't get why that is like, maybe it's on par with the Timeless Child in terms of controversiality. I like the Timeless Child, but I guess it's anything that messes with the Doctor's like perceived lore or backstory. People hate it. They hate it.
Well, the thing you just remind me of, actually, because I'm sure there's another nod to it in the episode, in the film, it is a reference to the Doctor stealing a lot of the Master's lives.
Yeah.
So is that why the kind of 13 life thing of the Doctor has been able to go beyond 13 incarnations, because he stole a lot of the Master's lives in the past?
The reason the Doctor is able to go over 13 regenerations is because in an episode, which we will watch eventually for you, he's granted more regenerations by the Time Lords at the end of Matt Smith's tenure. Spoiler alert, Dan. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
But you did ask. But I thought that the reference was more. I thought in the movie that it was the Doctor. The Master was just trying to steal the Doctor's lives. Oh, he convinces his companion that the Doctor stole his lives, didn't he? Does he? 2 weeks ago since I watched it.
Oh, it might be.
Yeah,
I
think he does. He basically he convinces him that it's to do with like, because the Master's been executed right at the beginning, hasn't he? That's why he is the sludge that he is. And I think he kind of draws on the ploy of that whole thing of like, you know, I'm the good guy kind of aspect. Which, you know, is very easy to believe when you're dressed as Terminator.
Yeah, there were a proper Terminator nods to that role. There really were.
Yeah. I think like it's there's a lot of it that's just horrible. But I think like there's people in it who care deeply, and I think you can see that. Like I think Paul McCann is trying his damn hardest to like make the most of what he's got, kind of thing. And I think there's like some really lovely moments in it where you can see his Doctor. I think it's the scene where he goes outside and he's talking about, and he like kind of celebrates how the shoes fit, and it just feels very kind of like that. Even just that little moment, you kind of go, "That's his Doctor." Like I said, that's where we are with it. And you know, something I researched as well from watching the movie. He is up until I think even longer than I think he is the longest serving Doctor technically of all time, because when he took the role in 1996 and then he started the Big Finish in 2001. Technically, I think it's something like he is the longest serving Doctor with the least amount of physical appearances, which is just wild, isn't it?
That is,
it's quite an accolade. I like that.
But I think there's just so much of the movie, like you can just tell there's like American money all over it, and I think Fox produced it originally, and they just, in their head, like, I don't know, they're thinking Star Trek, they're thinking all of these things, but there's just so many bits in it that just feel so non-Doctor Who. Like I know I mentioned this the other week, but it's the bit with like where Sylvester McCoy just gets shot. Do you know what I mean? And like outside his TARDIS door, and I was just like, this is just so. I'm like, what is this, like 15 rated, like, kind of. I don't know. Like but it's one of them, and it's like, it's not the fact. I get it. It's like, you're doing it to get the regeneration. He doesn't technically die, but it just feels wrong. Do you know what I mean? In terms of what the show is, like, it just doesn't work at all. Although, like, I think kudos to like Sylvester McCoy, because he was like really insistent that they do the regeneration to like make it part of, like Doctor Who's, to actually do it formally, because initially when the first script came out, they just weren't going to have a regeneration. It's just going to be Paul McGann. There was going to be no passing of the torch. And he was like, really like, no, we need to do this kind of thing.
There's a precedent for that, isn't there? Wasn't it Colin Baker was it Colin Baker? Didn't someone not show up for the regeneration?
Yeah, it was Colin Baker into Sylvester McCoy. And I think because obviously Sylvester McCoy was on the other end of that, I think he felt quite passionately about doing it properly for when he left. Because the Colin Baker, I mean, you've probably seen it, but if you haven't seen it in a while, it is the most ridiculous regeneration ever. Because he's not there. And you can tell he's not there because basically what they do...
Sylvester McCoy in a wig, isn't it?
Yeah, they put Sylvester McCoy in Colin Baker's outfit and a wig, and then there's a really quick kind of like Microsoft PowerPoint kind of swipe across the scene, and then it's Sylvester McCoy. But it's like, it's so bad. Like even watching it when it properly aired, I think people would have gone, "Oh my god."
But yeah, I completely agree with you, Jerome. There were a lot of, it felt like the most adult or kind of mature Doctor Who episode I think we've ever seen, and there's a lot of themes in it, like, with like obviously the shooting and a few of the bits as well, that kind of feel like it's like a weird Torchwood kind of tinge to it, like the early kind of essences of what would become more of that adult side of Doctor Who.
Going for a new vibe. It's going for a new vibe, isn't it? And I guess that comes in the territory of being a movie. We haven't had a Doctor Who movie since. I've always thought, did you guys know about the years ago? I think it was when Matt Smith was the Doctor. David Yates, the director of some of those Harry Potter films, came out and publicly said that he was attached to a Doctor Who movie. Stephen Moffat at the time said, "I don't know anything about this," and came out publicly and said, "If anyone's the Doctor, it's going to be Matt Smith, and I don't know anything about this movie, and I'm the showrunner." But yeah, we haven't had a Doctor Who movie since. I think now with the Disney Plus partnership, we are going to get a Doctor Who movie, definitely within the next 5 years, I imagine.
Oh, 100%.
But what would we want from a Doctor? Because this is the only Doctor Who movie we've got. Like, what do we want?
Well,
from a Doctor Who movie? It's not this. I'll tell you that. It's not this. What do we want?
The only other Doctor Who movies are the Peter Cushing ones, which aren't canon. But they are technically Doctor Who movies. In fact, that might be an interesting podcast one time, is like looking at material that is in the Doctor Who universe that's not canon, because the Peter Cushing films are loved. Like people, I remember like my dad watched them when they came out in like the early 60s, and he was like, they were great. Like they were really, really good. Like a lot of budget, a lot of money that the TV series didn't have. Like, I think it might have been the first Doctor Who kind of sort of on screen to be in color. I might be wrong about that, because obviously Hartnell was all black and white, and so was I don't think the TV series went color until Jon Pertwee, I think. But like the movie was in color, so that for a lot of people was like, oh my god, this is taking it to a new thing. I think there's a couple of things you can learn from this movie, the 96 one, that is a warning sign. I wouldn't say it's worrying for today, but I do think, like, you know, Universal had they had their hands all over this project, and it was a mess. Like, it was a real, in terms of like the amount of different producers that came on it, creatives, everyone wanting to have their kind of imprint on it, script rewrites, like not wanting people for certain roles and that. And I think that's starting to maybe beware with Disney. Obviously, like, there's been a thing with the BBC kind of saying, no, it's more kind of about, do you know what I mean, like brokering deals and getting people across the globe watching Doctor Who. But you can't tell me that Disney have signed up to this like absent of any kind of creative power. I wouldn't say they've got all of it, but I'd be surprised if there wasn't any. So
I hear that the main villain in the new series of Doctor Who's Mickey Mouse, actually, and Mickey Mouse is sweary in it as well. Like, he really starts swearing, and he's masturbating as well. But they I imagine they do have some creative input in.
Thing is, if you're bankrolling some like £100 million into a series like Doctor Who, you are going to want some kind of creative input to an extent. You're not just going to do it for the sake of doing it, are you? So it's something to worry about. But I think go on.
Sorry, Dan. No, go on. I've said enough. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think, because you could kind of argue in terms of films that the 50th special was kind of like a mini movie within its own. It was broadcast in cinemas around the world, for crying out loud. We've had the 360th anniversary specials, which have been like mini movies within themselves as well. The whole production value now, this new norm with Doctor Who, I don't think it would even necessarily warrant a film, because if the quality is there, what would you do apart from maybe like elongate the running time or kind of go really...
I want to see Doctor Who in the cinema on the big screen.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gutted that we didn't watch it at those 50th screenings, to be honest. Like, I want a film that has excitement and fan service and all of those, like a Spider-Man No Way Home event. Like, I think I think film opens up that avenue and that opportunity to be like, okay, this is a Doctor Who film. This is an event that is created outside of like a TV series. What that idea is,
because it would have to go either in tandem with the TV series, or you would have to kind of go on to a spin-off, which, as we mentioned in the last podcast, could be entirely plausible with Disney. Unless the only option is we see something for like the 70th or the 75th and they go even bigger still, which I kind of get the feeling that Disney have got their thing on board now. They will make this thing as big as they possibly can to warrant something like an even greater anniversary special.
Yeah,
but again, like, you know, hopefully they don't go too far with it, so it's still got that, it's still intact as a concept.
At the risk of sounding very kind of Brexit here, I think like one of the things.
Oh no, he's going there again.
We're trying to go after a young audience, for God's sake.
Yeah, I know, and fuck him. But no,
sorry, Piers.
He is moments away from saying stop the boats as well. I'm telling you now.
Shout out to Piers.
Why have you got your jacket zipped all the way up, Jerome? Is it just Stop Oil?
No, that's good, isn't it?
It's Extinction Rebellion, actually, though.
But it says "Make America Great Again" on the back, so.
Got you.
I managed to lose my hat just before I came on screen. What I was gonna say was,
with the pistol.
I think that was the thing. It just, in terms of like Doctor Who, the problem with the 1996 film I have, or I think that the kind of the producers of that film really struggled with, is they took it so, linking into what Mike said, they took it so seriously. And ultimately Doctor Who is it's a silly show. And I think like it has to have that kind of silly sort of like amazing imaginary kind of, you know, those concepts at heart. And it just felt like they took it so seriously. And I'm just thinking with Disney, like with the Marvel, I think they've just got to be careful about exhaustion. It's not. I think it will be really good to have more Doctor Who, and I think the big involvement Disney have probably had with this is already Russell coming out and saying, I'm looking to go towards more fantasy rather than sci-fi. And you go, okay, that's fine. Like I won't you know, I won't judge it until I see it, sort of thing. But I think for a lot of the traditional, it is going to turn some kind of long-standing viewers off, because I think there is that very British concept to the show where it's like, it's sci-fi. It is about sci-fi, like it is about kind of time and space, and with all the kind of British silly idiosyncrasies, like combined with it is kind of what I mean. But that's not to say that it shouldn't, like, I agree with you, Mike. I think it deserves cinema releases. I think it deserves kind of bigger, you know, more bolder kind of ideas and budgets and things attached to it. So I think good can definitely come out of this. It's just a case of who's the loudest voice in the room. Is it going to be Russell, or is it going to be people kind of suits in a Disney boardroom going, actually put this in it and do this. Oh, and we want this as well and everything. So we just have to wait and see, I guess.
I think in a sea of kind of like Marvel, Star Wars content, it has a real opportunity to be that kind of British flagship sci-fi show that made loads of people fall in love with it anyway. So
yeah,
confident we're going to be all right. And there's been some big Doctor Who news recently, but just to wrap up the sort of movie chat, I just want to just list off the few things that I noticed and see if any of them strikes up a conversation. The first one was Master Snake. We've already discussed that. Great use of John Smith. We've discussed that. Brutal regeneration. We've discussed that. Mention of the Doctor's father happened when he's talking to his new companion. He mentions that him and his father used to look at the Gallifreyan night sky, and I just thought that was an interesting little thing that happened. I think that's like, let's expand his backstory, or, you know, that's obviously like a backdoor pilot, like we'll mention his dad now, and we'll, you know.
I have a little bit of info on that front. So one of the very first drafts of the TV movie script, I think like I can't remember the name of the main producer who was leading it. It's like Segal or something, but it's an interesting read. It's definitely worth kind of researching. But he was like, he wanted to kind of restart Doctor Who because it had the break since 1989, and kind of wanted to make it for American audiences, like we're going to start again kind of thing. And the idea was that the overarching story was going to be that the Doctor and the Master were the kind of like children of the Gallifreyan president, who was called Barusa or something. It's interesting. It's mad. I mean, it would change a lot of the lore, but it would have been like a complete reboot. But it was like their father was called Barusa or something like that. And then the Master basically kind of grows up to resent their father, ends up trying to get rid of him, kill him off, sort of thing. And Barusa's spirit ends up possessing the TARDIS.
Does his spirit look like a semen snake?
Probably. That's what powers the TARDIS now, apparently. But apparently, like, yeah, his soul would possess the TARDIS and become the reason. So when the Doctor goes to run off and take a Type 40 TARDIS, he ends up taking this particular TARDIS, which is basically like a self-found discovery thing of him realizing that his dad's the TARDIS. It's very strange. But I think what happened over time is there were rewrites and there were different drafts of it. And there were like a couple of people who were like, we really like the father element to this story, the father, human, the half human, the mother sort of thing. But we're not going to put in a lot of the stuff that was originally in the first draft, which would explain all of that. So we're just going to make a weird reference to it. So I think it kind of leads from there. It was kind of like it was a big part of the first draft. And then it just got changed by multiple different people. And then eventually they kind of went, well, I kind of still want it in. So here's a line about it. And it all feels very half-hearted.
That makes a lot of sense.
I need to connect my device to power. So give me 1 sec.
No worries.
Carry on without me. Very, very professional. We're still learning as a podcast. We're still learning.
We're honing our skills.
We're honing. We're boning. No, that's that's the worst rhyme I could have come up with. But yeah,
that is really good to know, because it's amazing that, because again, I would never have known that many people were conflicting on the narrative for this, and it kind of became this kind of clustering of different ideas.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. The only thing I've got written down here, and I've not mentioned it yet because I can't actually remember from watching it. I made a note of it when I was watching it, but it's something to do with the Master, or someone else mentions the Asian child. And I just thought the delivery of it was absolutely hilarious. And I thought that could be a title for a new special.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I think we have to bear in mind this is 1996, but at the same time, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, yeah, it's kind of making it out to be like you've got all of these terms, these acronyms that people are obsessed with in like sci-fi shows where it's like the special one, or you know, the God one, or this one, or the Asian child, and you just go, well, yes, you're not wrong, but I mean, who? I think they just got the Master's character completely wrong. It was like, oh, he's an alien, and he was like, well, yes, he's an alien, but he takes. They all take kind of human form because it's favorable amongst Time Lords and stuff. It's like, yeah, but he's an alien. So it's like he might have a concept of what a child is, but he's never met an Asian before. And it just feels like, it's just, yeah, I don't know. But there's so many lines in it that just stick out and you go, who greenlit this? Like, who thought this would be a good, did anyone actually just read the script and just go, like, just say it out loud and go, you know what, I don't think that sounds right. Like,
I mean, even the bit where the Doctor steals the computer chip from the
John Lennon's
from the atomic clock. Yes, hello. Even though when he steals the chip from the atomic clock, and she says like, oh, it's something like there's like a reference like good things come in small packages, something like that. And then he makes the joke by saying, well, we also say that on my planet as well. And it's still got kind of that cheeky adult humor that came from the Chris T. Davis era when that first rebooted anyway. So it's nice to have seen little reflections of that kind of carry on.
Yeah, go on, Dad, sorry.
No, go on. What's happened?
No, actually, that was a point to make. Mike, I don't know if you had this on your list. Romance. This is kind of the first of the romances. And I think it changed. It was a big change to Doctor Who because you kind of, from a continuity perspective, you had this alien that was like, I don't know, 650, 700 years old, who we know he has a granddaughter. So we know there may have been someone in the picture at that point. But like, I don't know. Obviously, like, the reason it changes is because, you know, like, outside external things, like, people go, well, we want to see younger actors in general play the role, and we want to see kind of more kind of romance relationships come in. Ultimately, the reason. But do you think for the movie it was a good move, or do you think it worked, or do you think it felt a bit like, for what the movie was, did it feel like too blasé, just a bit strange? Like, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, blasé, because I totally understand the reason. Like, let's make it romantic. Let's make a love interest. Like, that's what's going to hook people. And it would, like, you know, the 2005, 2006 series, the Rose Tyler Doctor love interest was like, let's not pretend that that's not like the best thing. Like, when they get separated, it's amazing. Like, it's so, like, that's what you do to invest large audiences. Like, the viewing figures are insane. Everyone was talking about it. Amazing. Like, great chemistry between David Tennant and Billie Piper as well. But in the film, it's that idea, but it's just vacuous, isn't it? It's just like let's give it a hook, and we didn't get enough of them together on screen because it was never picked up for that to really develop, really, did we?
No.
And I think you just hit the nail on the head there. If it had more time like the TV series, that could have been more of a natural building of a relationship between those two characters. But because you only had, what was it, an hour and 18 in running time? It's quite short for a film, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it was kind of convoluted anyway.
But that's what's so interesting about, sorry, Dan, it's also so interesting about it being a TV movie is it is only an hour and 18 minutes. And there have been Doctor Who episodes that have been that long. Do you know what I mean? So again, it's that kind of thing of like, have we had many different Doctor Who movies that just aren't, do you know what I mean, that have never been advertised that way? Or have we technically had none? It's an interesting one in terms of, it's only because that one Paul McGann episode has in the title has the word movie in it. That's the only reason it's considered a movie.
Yeah.
And it was when you think of the era as well, I mean, in US TV, running time is already going to be, 22, 23 minutes with adverts and commercial breaks. So if that's an hour and 17, it's probably like a 2-hour slot on a TV window in the US, so it's going to be kind of bumped
You
out more like a
imagine-
film anyway.
You imagine the concept, right, of like every Doctor's first episode. You imagine like if the story had been there's going to be a regeneration at the start of this episode for the new series. It's going to be the first Doctor's episode, and in this episode, they're going to like go to New York, get a new companion, and defeat the Master. That'd be insane.
It's big.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a
That's
big
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a big kind of movie idea. It just kind of felt a little bit bland. And like, I don't know. It's like Jerome was saying at the beginning, it's a good thing it failed because we wouldn't have the Doctor Who that we have now. But if it had been successful, I think Doctor Who would have just been fully Americanized by now. It'd be complete. It would have, it would have. I'm not sure how many seasons the classic era of Doctor Who is, but by now we'd be looking at like maybe like Law and Order style, like series of Doctor Who and like spin-offs and stuff. And
Yeah.
it just, I don't think I'd be watching it. I mean, there's no way of telling, right? But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's got to
Couple of
keep
other
its
things.
charm, hasn't it? That's the thing. It's got to keep that sort of wistful English charm. Otherwise, it just becomes just some generic.
Just some
sci-fi.
other noise. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of other things I wanted to cross off were the Doctor comes across as a complete mad person. There's one.
Mm.
The other thing is the Doctor walking through that window is insane. Remember that bit?
Yeah. And
He
you know
fully
what?
walks through that window, doesn't he?
Yeah, consider it's a TV film, or like a TV thing. Like the special effects aren't too bad. I've seen worse.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you completely.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean, it's not aged too badly considering.
The other time they kind of like, I wonder if it's a reference to it actually. In Christopher Eccleston's second episode, which is obviously the only the let's say the movie is the first episode of the modern series, then you get Rose, and then you get The End of the World, which is I think the title of the second episode. So that's the third episode of like modern Doctor Who. Christopher Eccleston, I think, like slows down time with his mind or something to walk through a fan. Anyone remember that?
Yeah, rings a bell.
It's kind of like this similar thing of like the Doctor having these superpowers that, but yeah, when he walked through that window, I was like, okay, fuck this.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because actually, on the special effects front, there's a lot of horror aspects in the film. Like there's quite dark, particularly when he regenerates and he's in the morgue, and
It's
all that.
terrifying.
And you know what? Actually, to be fair, one thing I actually really like that regeneration because it's very convincing that he's like. While I don't like the fact he's been shot in the manner he has, the fact that they have done that is painful. It's like it's almost like every cell in his body is like regenerating, and it's almost like kind of dealing with the damage that's been done to it and the whole face thing going on. And I think I think that was really good, the way they kind of like brought across that element. They then did the thing with the eyes and the light on the eyes and everything, which just feels ridiculous. But the bit where he's actually in the morgue,
The
and it's like, I
CGI
really
face
enjoyed
morph
that.
is actually
Yeah,
quite
it's
good, isn't
really
it? That's
good.
what Dan
That
was
is
saying
really
about
good.
the CGI.
Yeah.
I watched that and thought, I remembered that being worse. And actually, I've seen worse CGI in the modern series of Doctor Who. Like, I don't know, off the top of my head, a CGI American diner flying off into space being worse than that. The other thing that I had on my little list was I thought a Time Lord could sense another Time Lord. This is bullshit. That's what I wrote down.
Yeah. I think they forgot.
Or was that only established in the modern series that they could sense another Time Lord?
I'm trying to think if there's because the Master in the old series probably appeared the most in sort of John Pertwee time, because there was a whole thing. There's like a whole thing between John Pertwee and the Master where they sword fight, they have like gun ray fights, they have all sorts. Like it's actually not that I don't know if we ever will go back and watch John Pertwee's episodes properly, but he's like one of the Doctors that's like fights. Like the others are like peace and like
he's
it's
an
like
angry man. Yeah,
he is an angry man.
They were like, John, please stop fighting in these scenes. It's not written in the scripts. It's not
Honestly,
what we want to convey. And he just kept punching him.
I think there's a YouTube I might be wrong about this, but I think there's a YouTube compilation of John Pertwee's Doctor, just having people in headlocks. I genuinely think that might be a series of YouTube videos. But like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they can sense each other in the old ones. I can't remember, but yeah, it's just a bit rubbish in the movie.
Okay. Has anyone got any other thoughts on the movie before we tie this up?
Just the whole ending in the Eye of Harmony scene. Just what's going on? With like
again, by that point, I won't lie, I had lost interest. I was watching it, but half watching it.
But it's like the clock. And why is he dressed up like he's in Clockwork Orange? There's the whole thing with like and he's doing this and he's like looking into it, and it's all very. I think they may have stopped writing the script at that point, and they were like, we need to finish it.
Pure improv from the actors who are like, we haven't got a script to work on. Do this with your eyes.
See the Eye of Harmony. I don't know. I agree with you, Mike. I think by the end of the film, you're kind of done with it, aren't you? And it's a shame, like, because you can try and watch it and you can try and be like, oh, I like this. And it's like we've said in this episode, like there are bits where you go, that's a good moment. I liked that. Oh, I can see what they were trying there. But by the end of the film, you're just like, I'm done. I'm done. And it's a shame because you end up resenting it a bit. You just finish.
Which is different to Dan's ending of the film, because Dan was thinking, yes, I've got to record the podcast in 2 minutes. 1 minute left to go.
I'll play at double speed. That'll make more sense. God, that TARDIS has been souped up.
We're all just waiting for the teaser trailer for next week's movie. Where is it? Why isn't it there?
The next TV special.
Yeah.
Christopher Eccleston? What? He's the Doctor?
The Sisterhood
Billy
of
Piper?
Right. The last thing, that sort of how I thought we'd round this out, is Millie Gibson. The news on Millie Gibson.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So I wonder whether she was only contracted just for the one. Because there's a lot of talk when they say they've been kicked off, that all this has happened, but you wonder whether or not it was just the short term, or maybe even just a temporary role, because maybe the actor they did want wasn't yet available. I've not really heard or seen much about the new actor that's going to replace Millie Gibson. But it's quite surprising, especially like I'm sure we mentioned in the last podcast, when you are rebooting or soft rebooting Doctor Who, you'd feel like you'd keep the Doctor and the assistant there as kind of solid foundations for this next step.
Grow them over time, yeah.
But I mean, again, it's not too far from the last soft reboot in 2005, because obviously Christopher Eccleston left after the first series, and then David Tennant came in, and then it kind of took off and became the same thing.
Billy Piper was only there for 2 series. Free Marajiman was there for 1. And they come back in recurring roles. I think that the media, like, my theory is that the media have just run wild with this story and been like, there were reports like ages ago that like Millie Gibson was being a diva on set and with night shifts and whatever. And I'm like, I think that's sexist. And I think they're just trying to find like a new enemy. And actually, I think it's probably perfectly bloody normal and probably the plan all along. But I guess we'll find out.
I think like the new companion apparently is going to be Varada Sethu, who I think was on a BBC. She's been on some like recent BBC kind of hit or something. But I agree with you. I think the whole Millie Gibson thing, like, also I think sometimes we have to remember not everyone is probably a fan. Do you know what I mean? Like, some people will take this as a job, and it might be the case that we know for a fact that Doctor Who is a particularly challenging, intense schedule where you can't really do any other things. And I think she's like 20, 19,
she's
20.
Really young, yeah.
She's really young. So it's like, I think there might be that kind of element of you just want to you just want to like do your bit and then move on, and that's fine. And like it's already been rumored that Ncuti not going to stay around for too long. Like people are already talking about his potential imminent departure. And to be honest with you, I think going forward with Doctor Who and Disney and everything, I think you might find this is more of a common occurrence. I think you might find people do shorter stints, especially when they've now opened the door for previous Doctors coming back and maybe taking the steering wheel for a while, or having their own kind of spin-off bits. I think you might find that it revolves a lot quicker, but I guess we'll wait and see. I just hope she's good for the series she's in. I just hope she's good more than anything.
Yeah,
I believe
do.
that she's in, from the reports, which are always wrong, but from the reports, is she is in this series that's coming up, and then she is in a few episodes of the other series as well, which makes me feel like it's planned. Like it makes me, like it's like, oh, we'll bring her back to like wrap up the story in like a few episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big drama. It might be a big drama. We might get information over the next few months, which is Christopher Eccleston level drama.
She might just leave. Whereas, if it was Stephen Moffat, I mean, you could guarantee she would die in. But
yeah,
she'd be dead. Yeah.
So the one thing I have noticed with Varada Sethu is that she plays one of the lead characters in a Disney Plus dystopian sci-fi thriller called Andor.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, yeah. Andor's really good. Yeah.
So she leads in that. And in fact, so much as a week ago, some pictures of her have leaked on set filming with Ncuti. And it looks like there's going to be like a 1950s Miami inspired episode. They're all dressed up in like fancy dress, like again 50s attire, 50s cars. It's on like a Miami beachfront. Have you seen this as well?
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I mean, like it's like I say, we've not seen, apart from the Christmas special, we don't really know how it's going to pan out. It could, from a narrative perspective, it could be something for the sake of the Doctor that I know. It's like, I don't know. It could be like an emotional sucker punch that then leads into great and grander things. But
quick question. It sounds like Doctor Who's doing quite a few episodes in sort of like America and stuff going forward, which kind of makes sense. Where on planet Earth, where would you like to see Doctor Who go that maybe hasn't been done already, or maybe it has, but is there anywhere you would like to see them tackle?
Oh,
has the Doctor been to Australia?
I want to say yes.
I'm not going to confidently say no.
I can't remember though, but like that would be cool or interesting. Or like has the Doctor been to like China or Japan? That'd be interesting.
I can't remember. Like I can't.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't.
I like my Doctor off-world, to be honest. Like I like the alien planet stuff more than I do like the homebound. Yeah. It does feel a bit too Earth-centric sometimes. Like every I think it was like Russell. That's one thing you can level at Russell, I think, is like in his original series and going into Moffat, it's like the end of every series is like the Earth's gonna die. And it's like it always feels like it's very like why do all these aliens choose the Earth all the time? It's like they could destroy anywhere. Do you know they always choose the Earth? Such a good spin on that was the Russell T Davies series 4 finale where the Earth disappears. I love that. I love like the Earth has disappeared from space. That is such a good idea. Like, where's the Earth gone? Who stole the Earth? Love that.
Yeah. Dan?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. All I hope is that maybe with the fantasy stuff we do see
singing.
More singing, yeah. I'm still got a horrible feeling there will be a musical episode.
It probably will. Yeah.
Oh, I think you're right.
As much as we don't want to admit that.
I really don't want that to happen, but I'm sure I'll embrace it when it does. And I'll be the biggest, I'll be the biggest fan of it when it happens. I'll be, like the timeless child, I'll defend it till I die, even if it is objectively shit.
So are we going to score it then? The TV movie.
The TV movie scoring round. Right. I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. And my 3 comes from the fact that it was British enough and weird enough that, like, to warrant it. Yeah, there we go.
Jerome?
I think 3 is probably a fair score.
He's going 2. He's going 2.
Well, it's difficult because there's elements of it that are just 1 out of 10, that are just so 1 out of 10 that I just cannot stand. But there are elements of it. There are moments in it that I do like that are good, but I just can't get away from the fact that by the end of the movie, I don't want to say hate, because I don't hate any Doctor Who, but I've just done with it.
I'm revising my score 2 out of 10.
I'm
Jerome's convinced me. By the end of it, I was like, I don't give a shit anymore.
I'm
2 out of 10.
I'm not going to say 1 out of 10 because there are moments that I do enjoy. Like, so but I can't give it higher than a 2 out of 10. It's just, I'm thankful it led to the 2005 revival, but other than that, I have no saving grace for it whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree with you. Daniel Allen.
I want to be quite generous with it because it's not. I'm glad I've watched it for the sake of watching it. Although I wouldn't. Oh, go on.
Can I kick him off this? Let's see if I can.
I think I'd probably give it a.
He nearly said.
I think I'd give it a 5.
Oh my god!
Because there were bits that were shit. Granted, there were, but I think there were some bits, particularly Paul McGann, that I would love to have seen more of in that role. And I think it's gutting that it wasn't until the 50th that we had that kind of pre-50th short that he starred in and reprised his role. So I feel like if it was any other actor portraying that role, I don't think it would have been as good. I think he kind of salvaged an otherwise sinking ship. I think without him, it would have been easily 3 out of 10. But I think he kind of pulled it to an average score because he kind of made the best of the situation he was given in, and you got to take hat off to him for that.
I am gonna score it 2 out of 10, but I agree with you. I think there is a shout out there.
Still 2 out of 10, Dan. Fuck off.
Paul McGann is good in it. Like, Paul McGann does a solid job in it, and I think like with that, it's just a shame. Like, it just feels like he's just fighting against it all the time. Do you know what I mean? Because everything else around him is just whatever.
It did technically lead to one of the best Doctor Who lines in Doctor Who history, which is when he comes back as a surprise for that night of the Doctor pre-50th minisode. It's, I am the Doctor, but probably not the one you're expecting. It's such a good, so good. Like, and if we're going down that rabbit hole, you know, if the 50th, if that movie had never happened, then that we would have never got that minisode, which was
that minisode is so good.
Yeah,
it's just such a shame that it's a minisode. It deserved an episode. Do you know what I mean? But that minisode, however, like 7-8 minutes, brilliant.
Well, there are rumors that, like we're saying with all the Disney Plus spin-offs, Doctors can come back. So Paul McGann could come back in a spin-off. That'd be so good. Like maybe the spin-off that they're filming or supposedly filming.
He's still of an age, Paul McGann. I think he's like late 50s now, where he can do you know what I mean? He can like hold his own probably, and I reckon at least commit to, even if they didn't give him a whole he just deserves something, you know, because he's shown that in that minisode he's really good. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's shown that he can do it, that he's really good, and I think he deserves it. We'll see. We will see.
Well then, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
One last thing, hilariously,
is this about Brexit again?
No, and it's not about the Valiard either, who I've done really well not to mention. Have you seen on X, which I don't have, I no longer have Twitter or X, but have you seen, Doctor Who related, there has been this storm, this absolute kind of this trolling that has occurred. There was a man who basically put out a tweet that said, "I'm fucking sick and tired of people calling Doctor Who Doccy Who." Hashtag
Doccy
Doccy Who. Right, I just want to put it out to you boys. I have never heard it called that ever.
Never
ever
heard
s-
anyone
ever-
call
ever-
it
ever-
Doccy Who.
ever
Never noticed
since-
Doccy Who.
Ever since he's put it out as a tweet, the internet, as the internet does, has responded in all its in its trimmings, and yeah, hashtag Doccy Who for. for
I feel like
future.
people say like I'm fed up of people describing the Doctor as Doctor Who, but I've never heard anybody say like Doccy Who ever in my life.
Never.
He's just made it up and been
Yeah.
like, I'm sick and tired. It's like he thought it 5 seconds before sending the speech, and I went, you know what? I'm sick and tired of people saying Doccy Who.
Hashtag
Only
Doccy Who. I feel like.
Well, thanks
Oh.
for tuning in to our latest episode of Doccy Who Doesn't Have a Podcast.
Love it.
All
Love
right. I'm going to end the recording.
Bye, internet.
Bye, internet.